Alright, so we're going to be compositing in Fusion. You can also composite in another program if you want. You can also composite in Nuke or in After Effects. Just keep in mind that the things will be a little bit different, but the general principles will be the same. You can get a free version of Fusion, the older version, which is 9. I'm going to be using, I'm compositing in 16.2, because there's a couple things that I'm going to be using that are not available in Fusion 9. Like the Intel Open Image Denoiser, for example, which is only available in 16. But you can also composite in Nuke or After Effects or whatever you want. And like I mentioned, I'm only going to run through one shot for this. So I'm only going to run through shot 30. Because all of the principles are kind of the same for every single shot. So you can just run through all of the other ones yourself and just tweak those. Because it doesn't make sense to show that, because it's basically somewhat the same for every single shot. So with that said, a couple things that you need to install. I'm using Reactor for Fusion, which is, you can get it on here. If you just Google for WeSo class Fusion Reactor, you get this this thing. You just download it. You can install it by opening the console and what am I doing? Opening the console and just dragging the Lua script in there, then it will install. Then you get this pop-up, which is going to be over here in script. Again, you can open Reactor there. I'm just going to open Reactor. Then there's a couple things that you need to install. You need to install Split EXR. You need to install Open Image Denoiser, and I might forget something that you also need to install, but we'll get to that. And I'm also using Frischluft, which is this thing, Frischluft Lenskare. You can download a demo over here, Frischluft Lenskare. You need to download OpenFX, and there's a README in there that shows you how to install it. And if you, then it's going to be watermarked. If you want a non-watermarked version, of course you will need to buy it, but it's a really nice depth of field plugin. So anyway, let's start compositing a shot. So let's grab our render. So let me just go to my thing, and let's go to, where is it? Let me just minimize that. Let's go to render 3D 30. Oh, let me, by the way, just grab for my final shot, because then we have the entire sequence. 3D 30 cookie. Is this the, yeah, I made a couple of different versions. Right, so I'm just going to drag it in. And right, there we have it. You can see the colors are a little bit weird. That's because we don't have aces applied. By the way, with 1 and 2 on your keyboard, you can show it like this. So because we need to enable this, LUTs, then go to open color space view LUT, then go to edit, and we need to plug in our aces thing. So I have my my open color IO configs saved in there. So I'm just gonna go over there. Just select it, go from ACES CG to Outrec 709. Alright, so now our colors are back the way that we want to. Oh. Why it's not working? Oh, yeah, sorry. Need to put it to open color IO, else of course it's not gonna work. So again, ACES CG and Outrec 709. Alright, so then we have our proper colors. And so now we at least know what we're looking at. So need to make sure also that our frame rate is correct. So if we go to preferences, we can check our frame rate, frame format over here. So 30 frames per second. So that's all looking good. And yeah, with that out of the way, let's select our thing. This is our beauty. Maybe we can copy and paste this and just keep it on the side, just in case if we want it again. Right, so select it, go to script, hold split EXR. So that's the thing that we installed, and then press OK. And Now you can see that it will extract all of our passes. So you can go through these. So we have reflection, diffuse, refraction, GI, normal, puzzle math. You can see I had 2 different puzzle maths there. Subsurface scattering, specular, everything. Right. So, and if we play, we can see we play through it. And let's just set our end of our sequence to proper end. Right, so just let me go through how you can composite a shot like this. So Infusion is a little bit different from Nuke. You don't have a shuffle node. What you do is you use channel booleans. So let's select it, control space, and then type boolean. Channel booleans. And then we're gonna add another one in here. So we're gonna add refraction. We're gonna put it on there. And then we're gonna put it to add. And we're gonna put alpha to do nothing. So this is gonna add our refraction to our composite. So let's copy and paste our thing, and then maybe right click and go to arrange options and arrange to grid, so we can snap to our grid. It might be a little bit nicer. All right, so let's add some other stuff. So let's add our specular. Let's add our subsurface scattering. Let's add our GI. And yeah, that's everything that we need. So now we recreated our beauty. So you can see if we go, yeah, apart from this fact that there's no alpha, so that's why I kept this thing here. If I paste this, let's press F2 to rename it. Let's call it alpha. What I'm just gonna do is create another channel booleans. I'm just gonna put this in here and then say copy, and then alpha, let's do alpha foreground. Right, so if we just go through, we have our beauty here, and then we have our thing here. Probably, so let's see, diffuse, reflection, specular, subsurface scattering. Do we have everything? I think refraction. Are we missing reflection? We're missing reflection. Ah, there we go. Right, let's also put in reflection. All right, so then it should look the same aside from the alpha. So let's just grab our beauty we have here, paste it here, press F2, call it alpha. And let's make another channel booleans. And then let's right click on this thing, drag it in here, and then go to effect mask. And then go to this thing, and then multiply by mask, by alpha. And then you can see we can integrate the alpha again. So now you can see we have rebuilt our beauty. And you might ask, well, we're left with the same thing, like why? What's the point? Well, this means we can individually change some of these elements here. So we can individually grade or denoise or do whatever we want on each individual pass. So that means, like, for example, if we have the specular here, I could put a color correct under my specular and then say, okay, I want the specular to look different. So that's why it's nice to sort of do this. It's slower, obviously, than just playing through your beauty. You can see if I play this, it's quite a lot slower than if I were to just play through my beauty. If your composite looks fine on your beauty, that you could also just do that. But in general, it's probably a good idea to sort of to do this. I don't really have a lot of noise in my render, but if I did, I could denoise it. So in our specific example, we don't have a lot of noise, but if we did have a lot of noise, we could denoise it, which is quite nice. So let me just show you how that would work. So we installed the open image denoiser. So if I type noise, you can see open image denoiser. So this one is only available inside of Fusion 16. So let's connect it. And this requires a couple of inputs. So it requires the the albedo. So just copy and paste that over there. Let's plug it in there. And it also requires a normal. That's the one. So plug that in there. Whoop. And it's HDR. You can also do that per pass. So in this case, not that much of a difference, but let me maybe grab another shot that might have more noise. So I think shot 20 might have some noise. Let me just check. Yeah, okay, so there's some noise here. So let me just split this out. So it's kind of, I wish Fusion would just have a shuffle, but it doesn't. Right, so let's say I want to get rid of some noise here. I could do into open image denoiser. You can also use it, by the way, without a normal pass or whatever, but it just works better with a normal pass. So you can plug in your albedo, you can plug in your normal. HDR. And you can see it sort of. I don't have that much noise, so it's not that obvious, but you can see, I'm not sure if it even shows up with the compression, but you can see it cleaning up the noise quite a bit. There's some options that you can do, but you can see it sort of cleans it up. And this might also work good for like individual passes. Like if you were to have a lot of noise in one of your passes, like maybe I only want to clean up my GI, I could plug in just my GI and then clean up my GI and then merge that back in. So that's just yeah, something that you could do. Yeah, so that's something we did. Now, generally, the farther we get into the composite, slower it's going to get, because it's already going to get quite slow. So what you could do is save this out with a saver and then load it back in, sort of as a kind of a proxy type thing. Oh, by the way, before we do that, maybe okay, let's just do that. Oh, so some interesting thing, by the way, that you might find useful, like in Houdini, you work with stuff like $job and stuff. You don't have that inside of Fusion. What you could do somewhat is you could go to preferences and then path map, and then could make a new path map, and you could say from $job to, and then let's say select our program folder, like our render folder. So let's go to tutorial, comp, Fusion. Let's say we have a shot here. So I see I have it called 30, but ideally you would probably make folders for every shot. So let's say I go to that folder and then open. So if I now were to type $job somewhere, it would refer to that folder. So what I could do is make a saver and just type $job / render and then / proxy and beauty.exr. So if I now render this, let's say render, you can see this works. It will create a thing there. So that might just be useful if you want to use variables like this, so you don't have to necessarily navigate to your folder. So that might, so if you didn't know that, that might be a nice way to sort of, yeah, organize your project. So I'm just gonna leave this to render, and then we're gonna load it back in. All right, so render completed. Then we can load that back in. So generally just do that because it's just easier, or it's just faster to do that. So you can see now this will just play basically real time. All right, so let's grab our depth from our thing. So let's yeah, it never splits it out. So let's grab our beauty again here. Let's paste it in here, and then we need to go to this tab, channels, and then we need to extract our depth. because the split doesn't do that by itself. So let's look through it and then put Z in every single channel. So you can see now we get the Z channel. And then let's do first loop depth of field. And let's put this in the second input. And let's auto range, select a focal point. Let's increase the radius. What I generally like to do is to grade this thing with a brightness contrast. So let's just change the contrast, gain, contrast, yeah, something like that. Let's change this auto range thing again. Right. Right, so that's how you can do the depth of field. And again, you can animate that by keyframing the focal distance. So you can say animate. I can just step through this to sort of animate my this is oh, one thing I almost forgot to do. That's always I keep forgetting. Need to invert the depth buffer. So that's kind of an important thing with Visual, sorry. So else it's gonna look weird because it's expecting an inversion of this. So it's expecting a black white instead of white black. Yeah, let me just remove my remove and then animate. All right, so now you can see this looks a lot better. Right, so let's make a background object. And let's make it the size of our beauty. So 2012 by 1188. Let's go here and let's make it a gradients. And let's make it radial. So a little bit orange in there. Let's put a merge. And then merge that in. All right. So we can just step through it. Now let's say, before we do the depth of field, let's go back here. Let's say we want to grade some of this stuff. Let's say we want the chocolate a little bit darker. What we could do is we could grab our puzzle map. For example, this one. Paste it here. Let's say we want to color correct. And then right click, put this in here and put it in the effect mask. So if I, by default now it grades the entire thing. But I can go to this tab, last tab. And then channel, which channel do I want to use? I want to use the green channel. Green. And so I can, I could change the, make it a little bit darker. Then I'm gonna blur it, merge it back in. Maybe then after the entire thing, I wanna do some other color corrections. So you might notice that the colors are acting a little bit weird. That's because for some reason the background images in Fusion don't come in by default as being the proper depth. So you need to go to the tab here, go to depth, put it to float 16. And now you can see it disappears. So anyway, yeah, you can do a little bit more color correction. And then let's say you're happy with the entire sequence. Let's say after we did a bunch of keyframes, like, okay, we want focus to be over there. Like we have some peanuts here following as well, which look a little bit weird. Thinking we probably need some more variation in our depth map here. I'm just gonna gain this up and just check our values. Down here you can see the values. Alright, so I think I'm gonna down it a little bit. Alright, so gain. So now this is a little bit closer to 1. So now this is, yeah, 0.5, and here it's negative. Okay, we don't want it to be negative. Alright, so let's go in here now. Let's auto range. Let's turn down the radius. Let me just remove the keyframes real quick. Let's change the white point to 1, black point to 0. Alright, so that's looking better. Let's do the couple of keyframes again. Alright, so now we have something that looks somewhat decent. So pretty similar to what I had before. Now, let's say we want to export this to Premiere. So the thing is with Premiere, there's no way to use open color IO. So we kind of need to bake this down to just like, well, regular RGB color. So let's turn off our LUT here and let's control space and type CIO or color of ACES or whatever it goes. CIO. All right. Color space transform. Let's browse to our correct folder. So I guess let's grab this one, grab that path, put it in there, select it, and let's go from ACCG because that's what we've been working in. Output space, out X709. Right, so now you can see it should look the same for if we do this to if we do this. So now if we make a saver, we can go to our project folder and go to render comp. Let's make shot 030. And then we could go over there. Then we could call shot 030. And then call it .png, just because it's Premiere and they just doesn't like. Let's do underscore, yeah. So yeah, and then if you just press render. So again, if you did in Resolve, you could probably just use ACES, but in Premiere it just doesn't like it. So I'm gonna bake it down to PNG. Anyway, so you can just render. So then it's gonna render. So you can see frames will appear, and those will be, just let's do those. Those will be regular sRGB, so you can just view them like this. And then you are done with your composite. Well, at least you do this for every single shot, and you change all of the things per shot that you like. So yeah, essentially that's it. Actually, one more thing that we need to do is, almost forgot to cover that, but we rendered with overscan, right? So 2112 by 1188, and we actually want to crop this. Let's put a crop in between, and this crop will crop it to 1920 by 1080. So it just crops off the sides essentially, and you could also do this later in your edit. But well, it kind of depends what you want to do. And with the transform, you could sort of reposition it. So if you already liked it, you could just scale it down. But at least with this cropping, you have, like with this overscan, you have a little bit more wiggle room in composite to sort of move stuff around a little bit. like do some stuff, like even add lens distortions if you want to. So yeah, that's just something I almost forgot to add into the recording, but here it is. Yeah, so once you comped all the shots, you rendered them out, you can just go over to your edit. So here's my original edit. You just put them in, put all of the things in the edit. Let me just put down the, and then your then you have your full shot. And then after that is done, you're gonna have a client that's gonna look at it, and then the client is gonna be like, oh, can you make the logo bigger and can you change everything, literally everything? And then you're gonna start all over again. And that's essentially a production process. Well, anyway, seriously. So we have this thing, and then we're gonna also, I did some titles on this as well. So I did those in After Effects, but you could also do those somewhere else. Let me just grab that. Right, so we're in After Effects. I prefer doing title designs and stuff inside of After Effects. I could have done this in another program, but After Effects is just nice working with a timeline, which for stuff like this. Again, if you're using Resolve, you could also do this stuff in Resolve and do that entire workflow. But I'm just used to using After Effects for this stuff. That's what I've been using for years as well. So anyway, just doing some titles. And I always prefer doing so I'm loading the edit, Premiere edit in here, and then doing the titles on top. I really dislike people that do editing in After Effects. I've gotten projects from people that have done that, and it's just so annoying to change later. Like seriously, like even if you're gonna composite in After Effects, composite in After Effects, then export it, like render it to Premiere, then bring it back into the titles like this. Like don't do everything in After Effects. Like don't do it. It'll get super chaotic, super confusing. Just split it up. Anyway, after that, all that is left to do is for the client to start being annoying and complaining about that the fonts need to be bigger and the titles needs to be changed and that the chocolate should be purple and the peanuts should be falling bunnies and all of that stuff. So after the client is done complaining for 3 months on end, then the project is finished. Alright, so that concludes SESI-Snacks. So I really hope that you learned a lot, and hopefully you're now a little bit less intimidated to maybe start trying to use Houdini in your daily work, to do a full project in Houdini maybe. So even if it's not a client project, even if you're just still studying, hopefully this kind of showed you the power of Houdini and how easy it can be to do certain things just in your general workflow without needing to go through other programs or whatever. So hopefully you enjoyed the entire course. Also, I really love hearing from you guys. If you followed along with the course and you have a cool end result and you want to share it, you can find me over here on social media. And I really love seeing what you guys do. So just if you make a cool end result, send it over. I'd love to see it. So if you want to see more of my own stuff, you can check it out on my website, timvanhelsdingen.com, or you can go to youtube.com/timvanhelsdingen, where I upload weekly videos and I literally have tens of hours of free Houdini tutorials. Also, I have other videos about CG in general, interviews with people, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. So if you want to see any of that, you can go to youtube.com/timvanhelsdingen. So I hopefully you enjoyed the course, and hopefully I'll see you in another one. So peace.